Good evening everyone. Myself Dhanlakshmi here from Tally Solutions. Is everyone able to hear me? Okay, fine. I assume that everyone are able to hear me properly. So today, as you people know that we have scheduled this webinar for taking the session on LBT, that is local body tax applicable in Maharashtra. So first of all, we will be discussing about the domain part. So under the domain part, we will be discussing about the concept related to the local body tax that is applicable in Maharashtra. So after the domain part is completed, we will be just running through the product. How exactly we can implement the local body tax applicable in Maharashtra in Tally.ERP 9. Is it okay? Okay, fine. So quickly we'll just run through the agenda. How exactly we have planned for the session. First of all, we will be discussing about the introduction part of LBT. Next, we will discuss about the scope and applicability. Next, about the registration. We'll talk about the LBT exemptions. Later, we'll discuss about the payments and returns. Then, we'll just walk through the product. How exactly we can maintain the same thing in the Tally.ERP 9. So, coming to the part of the introduction. Local body tax is a tax imposed by the municipal corporations of Maharashtra on the entry of goods into a local area for consumption, use or sale therein. So it's nothing but, as it is applicable in Maharashtra, there are around 26 municipal corporations located in Maharashtra. Whenever you are buying the goods as a purchasing data, whenever the goods are being imported into the municipal corporation that you are operating, the local body tax will be levied. So here, I just want to discuss about the history of this one, why exactly LBT was introduced by the department. Before LBT, as we all know, octroi regime was applicable. So under the octroi, whenever the goods are going to enter into the checkpost, the tax was collected, and there was no accounts maintained regarding the same thing. And also there were many corruptions happening at the checkpost level, and many people were refusing for the same thing, and they want the octroi regime to come to an end. So after looking after the drawbacks of the octroi regime, department decided to introduce the local body tax, which is nothing but whenever you are buying the goods and they are entering into the municipal corporation, tax will not be collected at the checkpost level, but on monthly basis you have to compute the tax that you are going to pay to the department, and accounts also will be maintained. So by this way, department can have accounts maintained related to the goods that are entering into the municipal corporation, and also it will lead to the better accountability. Is the introduction part is clear, or any doubts are there?
No sense once because they are in the concept ಎಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ very important to know how this is designed and okay, fine. You continue with that. You're running the ಅಲ್ವಾ, so you know about everything very well. So focus should be on a product definitely. Fine, you continue what you have prepared. We'll see. It will not take much time, right?
So going to the next part, we'll discuss about the scope and applicability. So as I told you before, there are 26 municipal corporations located in Maharashtra, and tax will be levied only when the goods are entering. Hello? Am I audible now? Okay, so now we are going to discuss about the scope and applicability of local body tax. As there are 26 municipal corporations located in Maharashtra, this tax is levied only when the goods are entered into these 26 municipal corporations. Any goods entering outside the municipal corporation will not come into the purview of local body tax. Next, coming to the taxable event, this is nothing but when exactly LPT will be levied on the entry of goods. So whenever you are making the purchase and the goods are entered into the municipal corporation, either for the usage or for reselling the same thing or for the consumption. Only when you are buying the goods for consumption or sale or for self-use, only then LPT will be levied. Then coming to the rate of tax. For deciding the rate of tax, there are two schedules, Schedule A and Schedule B. Schedule A covers the rate of LBT which is applicable on the goods, and Schedule B will be containing the goods for which the LBT is exempted. Next, coming to the taxable value for LBT. This is nothing but on which value LBT is going to be calculated. So LBT includes the value of goods. For example, you are making the purchase of an item at the rate of 100 rupees. So here value of goods will be 100 rupees, and along with the 100 rupees, if you are making the payment of any other duty like excise or VAT, and if there are any other additional expenses incurred on your purchases, all the invoice total value will be taken into consideration so that LPT tax can be arrived. Is it clear? Any doubts here? Okay. Coming to the part of registration. So Abhijit, this Gaikwad is asking to explain the taxable value once again. Mr. Abhijit, here the taxable value is nothing but on which value you are going to calculate LBT tax. So whenever you are making purchases, along with the value of goods, any other duties paid and any other expenses that you have incurred, which you are going to show it on the invoice, all the invoice total value will be considered here. For example, as I told you before, you are making the purchase at the rate of 100, so your value of item is 100, and on that 100 rupees value, if you have paid VAT or excise or any other expenses, all the value will be considered. The total value of the invoice will be considered here. Is it clear? Okay. So next, coming to the part of registration, this is nothing but to define which person has to register and what is the criteria for the same thing. So here, there are two criteria. For an importer, total sales or purchases in particular year, during the year, it should be rupees minimum of 1 lakh. And the value of goods that he is going to import should be of minimum of 5,000. And the value of taxable goods as per Schedule A. So here Schedule A is nothing but defining the goods which comes under LBT purview. The purchase of such taxable goods should be rupees 5,000. So here you may get doubts regarding the who is importer here. Importer here is nothing but the person who is going to purchase the goods and the goods are entering into the municipal corporation. He may be buying these goods for self-use or consumption or for selling purpose. So he is called as importer. And for others here is nothing but any person who has not yet paid the octroi or the LBT, who doesn't come under the purview of the LBT. If he is having the total sales or purchases in a year, summing up to rupees 1,50,000, and the value of such taxable goods is rupees 5,000, he has to register under LBT. Is it fine? Shall we proceed? There is a question here, is it applicable on goods like chemicals and food items? Yes, it's applicable on chemical and food items. Any other queries? Fine. We are going to proceed with the next topic. So now we will be discussing about LBT payment and returns. So as I told you, LBT will be computed on monthly basis. So in a particular month, you need to take the actual value of all your purchases made and you have to calculate the payment of LBT. And after making the liability generation, you need to pay it to the department on or before 10th of succeeding month. For example, taking February into account, whatever the purchases that you have made in the month of February and the goods which are entered on the inside the municipal corporation, you need to compute the tax liability and you have to make the payment before or on 10th of the succeeding month, that is March. Next, coming to the interest or any other kind of penalty payment, Rule 43(3)(a) of the LBT Act provides the provisions for the interest payment. Interest is charged basically when there is delay in LBT payment. So, if there is delay from the first 12 months onwards, the rate of 2% of interest will be charged on it. If there is delay after 12 months also, there will be a 3% per month. Okay, here the Sunday is telling that it has to be paid before 20th of the succeeding month. Related to the date of payment, generally it will be 10th of the succeeding month, but for the 20th of the succeeding month, there are certain provisions applicable. You can refer the LBT Act so that you will come to know about the provisions which particular person has to make before 20th and 10th of the succeeding month. Is it clear, Sandeep? I agree with that there are certain cases under which you need to pay the tax amount before 20th. There are certain exemptions applicable for certain kind of dealers. So you can go through the LBT Act to know more about the provisions. Okay, next coming to the lump sum payment. So lump sum payment facility is applicable only for the registered dealer. Only they can avail this particular facility. Only in case if the total of all purchases during the year is less than 10 lakhs. So if their total purchases during the year is more than 10 lakhs, they can't avail this lump sum payment facility. Next, coming to the returns, there are two returns to be filed in case of LBT taxation. One is half yearly and one is annual. So Form E1 is basically meant for half yearly and Form E2 will be filed annually. And the due date within which these returns has to be filed is nothing but 15 days after completion of your half year or your annual. Any doubts here? Udit is asking what exactly is the E1 and E2 forms. These are the return forms. These are the return filing forms which you have to file to the department. Is it clear with it? Next, we will be discussing about the LBT exemption, under which scenarios the tax of LBT is exempted. So first of all, when goods are imported into municipal corporation by or on behalf of the state or central government for non-profit purpose. So basically, whenever you are purchasing the goods, importing here is nothing but it's entering into the municipal corporation. So basically, whenever you are buying the goods, so that on behalf of the state or central government for not for profit purpose. It's nothing but, for example, say suppose the road construction is going on. So as you are a contractor, you are going to make purchase of certain items for the road construction, like cement and other things. So it's basically meant for public purpose. It is not for the profit thing. So such kind of purchases will be considered under LBT exemption. So next, export outside India. So if you are having the intention of purchases to make the export outside India, such purchases will be exempted under LBT. And next, coming to the job work. So whatever the goods that you are receiving or you are receiving from your main principal related to job work, those goods will be exempted. Next, goods registered and returned by purchasers within 6 months from the date of export. Say suppose, here don't get confused with the word export. Under LBT, import is nothing but goods are entering into the municipal corporation, and export is nothing but goods are moving out of the municipal corporation. Mr. Amardeep is asking about the classification file. Mr. Amardeep will just get back to this one after some time. Right now, let us just concentrate on the main part. When it comes to the product, I will let you know about this one. Is it fine, Amardeep? Okay. Fine. Next, coming back to the exemption one. So we were discussing about goods registered and returned by purchasers within 6 months from the date of export. So here is nothing but, say suppose you are making the sales to your seller and the same seller has returned back to the goods. So as the returns are there, goods will be again entering into your location, which is located in the LBT zone. So such kind of rejections, if it is within 6 months, it will be coming under LBT exemption. So coming to the next exemption, receipt of goods from principal company for carrying out certain process. So under this criteria, whenever you are receiving the goods from your principal company, the certain conditions are applied over here, like there should not be any change in the item that you are receiving without changing the content of that particular item and without modifying anything in the particular product. If the ownership is still with the principal company, such kind of receipt of goods will be exempted from the taxation. And next, but the last one, purchased goods and exported the same within 6 months can claim 90% of refund. So here you can say that 10% will be exempted. Say suppose you have made the purchases and you have exported, that is nothing but you have made the sale of the same thing within 6 months of such purchases. In that case, you can claim 90% of refund. Here there are two scenarios. Either you can check with your commissioner, that is nothing but commissioner of LBT, and you can issue the declaration form F to him, so that whenever you are making such kind of purchases, having the intention of export within 6 months, only LBT of 10% of levy. Otherwise, you can pay 100% of LBT, and later point you can pay 90% of refund. Either of these ways the dealer can go with. Is it clear? Exemption? I hope the LBT exemptions are clear to everyone. So I'm going to proceed with the next slide. basically next slide has been product ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಬರ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, so I tell to them that they are going to share the feedback link. I have shared you the feedback link. So right now we have completed the domain part. You can just send your feedback by logging into this particular link. Have you all got the link? So now we are going to see how exactly these transactions can be handled in Tally.ERP 9. So we will be starting with the activating. We will be just going through the whatever we have planned in that particular manner. First of all, we will be seeing how exactly we have to activate and configure the LBT details. Then we will see the master configuration. Then we will be seeing the recording of transactions. Then we will see how exactly LBT liability can be generated and how we are going to make the LBT payment. Then at the end we will be seeing the reports. How exactly the same, all these details can be handled in Tally.ERP. We will just run through that one. So first, coming to the part of activating and configuring LBT, let us understand this by taking one simple transaction. So here the transaction is Lakshmi Electronics is dealers in electronic goods such as fax machine, cartridge, etc. located in Nashik, Maharashtra. So here the company will be Lakshmi Electronics. They are basically the dealers in electronic goods. So before coming to the Tally.ERP 9, let us take one simple example of a transaction. So here Lakshmi Electronics is the dealer in electronic goods. Basically they are dealing with the fax machine, cartridge, etc. all these kind of electronic items. And they are located in Nashik, Maharashtra. Is the screen is visible now? Okay, fine. Right now we will be discussing about how to activate and configure LPG taxation in the company data. So before going to that one, let us just understand with a simple example that here the company name is Lakshmi Electronics. So they are basically dealing with the electronic goods and they are located in Nashik, Maharashtra. And as you all know, Nashik is one of the municipal corporations. So this particular company is operating in Nashik Municipal Corporation. So in the above transaction, first of all we need to have the company set up. So we will be creating the company by the name Lakshmi Electronics in Tally.ERP name first, under the state Maharashtra. Then as they are also VAT dealers, we will be enabling VAT taxation and then we will go with enabling the LPT. Are you all able to see my Tally.ERP application? So here I have created one company by the name Lakshmi Electronics under the state Maharashtra. So now in order to enable VAT and LPT which are applicable for this particular company, from the gateway of Tally we will be going to F11 and the F11 will be having statutory and taxation. So first of all I will be enabling value added tax for the company. And it is not compulsory that if LPT is applicable to enable value added tax. Only as this company is under VAT, I am just enabling that. So here you will be getting an option to enable local body tax. You can enable this option here. And in order to set the details for your company, you have to go with the option set alter LPT details. And once you enable this option, here you will be getting the zone. So all the 26 zones of that are nothing but the municipal corporation have been listed down here. You can select in whichever your company is located and then you can enable the registration number over here. And you need to enter the registration date over here. Is it clear? Enabling the LPT details into the company data. So now coming back to the master configuration. Right now we have seen how to enable the LPT details in the company master. So right now we will come to know how exactly to be LPT masters to be created. So even let us just understand this using a simple. Sandeep is asking a question over here. In one particular company, how many registrations can be created? Sandeep, it purely basically depends on the zones in whichever you are operating. If there are more than one zone in whichever you are operating, for example, right now I have configured for Nashik, and also your company is located in another municipal corporation, state Pune, you can enable that registration details also over here. That I am going to show you a little bit later. Is it fine? Okay. So now coming back to the master configuration, let us understand this using a simple example. So here I am having a transaction wherein Lakshmi Electronics are purchasing 10 numbers of fax machines at the rate of 12,000 each from Samir Electronic Traders. So these Samir Electronic Traders are nothing but they are the registered dealers of Ahmednagar. So Ahmednagar, as all you know, it is also one of the municipal corporations. So Samir Electronic Traders are registered under Ahmednagar. So for this particular transaction, VAT is levied at the rate of 12% and LBT is also applicable. So now we will see what are the markers required for this particular transaction. So as Lakshmi Electronics are purchasing, already we have created a company. So they are making a purchase of fax machine. So here our item master will be fax machine and the party from whom we are purchasing is nothing but Samir Electronic Traders. So in order to maintain this particular transaction in Tally, we need to have the following masters created. One is party ledger, that is nothing but Samir Electronics. Next, your duty ledger, that is nothing but LBT duty ledger. Next one, we need to have the LBT classification. So this LBT classification is nothing but these classifications will define the rate at which LBT is charged on the items that you are bringing into the municipal corporation. And next we need to have the stock item master so that we can have a purchase entry made in Tally.ERP. Is it clear? So first of all, as I told, we should have the party ledger. As already I have created, I am just going with the option alter. So here I have created a ledger by the name Samir Electronics and the sundry creditors. And here, as this particular creditor is registered under Ahmednagar Municipal Corporation, once you select the state as Maharashtra, then you will be getting an additional option under tax information that is set to alter LBT details. So whichever parties you have created under the state Maharashtra, only for them you will be getting this option that is set to alter LBT details. So if I am going to select as Madhya Pradesh, you will not be able to get this particular option. So here I am selecting the state as Maharashtra. I will be getting here set to alter LBT details so that I can mention his registration number and other details. I will be enabling here. So as the dealer is from Ahmednagar, I will be selecting the zone as Ahmednagar here. Here I will select the status whether he is a registered dealer from Ahmednagar or unregistered dealer. So once you select the status as registered, then the cursor comes to the LBT registration number. Otherwise, if you are going to select as unregistered, it will not come. I'm just going to enter the registration number and then again it will ask you the LBT registration date. As on which particular date this dealer is registered. Next, coming to the part of LBT duty ledger, I am giving the name as LBT duty and this has to be created under duties and taxes. And here, like any other tax type of duty or tax, here we have given an option to select whether it is LBT or other. As this is coming under LBT purview, we need to select type of duty or tax as LBT. So these are related to ledger. And next coming to the classification. Classification will be created so that rate can be defined for the items. So in order to create the classifications, we can go to display, statutory reports. You can come to LBT. Here we have given an option classification. So from the classification option, you can get the option create, display and alter. From here you can mention, for example, I am just mentioning as all electronic items. You can give the description. Here the description is nothing but in this particular municipal corporation. There is nothing but wherever you are operating. So here in Lakshmi Leaders it is Nashik. So in Nashik, whatever the electronic items are there, what is the description that this particular department has given? So that's why you can mention over here. So whichever zone that you have configured under F11 and F3 statutory features, that particular zone will be listed here. You can select here and you can mention the applicable date and whichever rate is applicable. So whichever item that you are configuring under the classification electronic items, for that particular item, rate will be configured at the rate of 4%. For example, you can give. And one more thing here, these classifications you need to create whenever there is no file that you are given in a statutory or in our website to import it. For example, there are around 7 to 8 municipal corporations for which already we have given the classification details, which they can just simply import into the Tally company data. If further municipal corporation like Bhiwandi and all they are not provided, if the classification are not provided in the website, they need to come and create for each and every item here. So here Udit is asking a question related to this classification. How we will come to know the exact rates of taxable goods? Udit, you can just simply visit the mahavat.gov.in website. So if you can go to the LBT Act tools, they have clearly stated the schedule, whatever the goods that are coming under Schedule A, and accordingly you can configure the rates here. And for each of the municipal corporations, there are separate websites created. And if you go to the particular municipal corporation's department website, you will be knowing about the schedules. So under schedule, you will be finding for Schedule A whatever the rates are applicable, and accordingly you can come and create here. For some of the municipal corporations we have given the classifications in there. Only the thing is you have to download it from our Tally website and you need to import in your data. I'll just show you where exactly those particular XML files are available. Are you people able to see the Tally website which I opened right now? Okay. So from Tally website, as you know, whichever file you want to download, you will be going with the option download here. So once you click on download, you will be getting the option that is download center here. You need to click on that download center. So under the download center, we are having an option that is statutory files for Tally.ERP 9, series A release 4.8. Once you click over here we have given an option local body tax classification. So right now we have given the classifications available for around 7 municipal corporations, and if your company is located in any other municipal corporation which is listed here, you have to create the classifications manually. So Mr. Vasudio Borallo is asking how to import these files in Tally.ERP 9. So Mr. Vasudio, I'm just going to show you next in that particular thing how exactly you can import these files in the Tally.ERP 9. And Mr. Mathur is asking, is there any need to make LBT ledgers as per different rates, example LBT 2%, 3%? Mathur, it's not required to create different LBT ledgers. How you create for VAT? If different VAT rates are applicable, you will be creating different VAT duty ledgers. So in the same manner, it's not required to create for the LBT. Only one particular duty ledger is enough. Is it clear, Mr. Mathur? Okay. Fine. For example, as I told you that other company which have created, that is nothing but Lakshmi Electronics, is located in the location Nashik. So for Nashik, already we have provided the classification. You can simply download this one. This will be in the XML. It is not in the readable format. You can just simply download this one. Once after downloading, from the gateway of Tally, in whichever company you want to import these classifications, you can come to import of data, and then you can come to the option masters. So here I'll be providing the location part wherever it has been pasted, wherever you have downloaded. And after the location part, you need to mention the file name with the extension .xml. I'll be selecting here the option as modify with new data. So the classification will get imported. So once the classifications are imported, you can just go to display, statutory report. Then you can go with the option LBT. You can come with the option classification. Either you can go with the option display or alter in order to view that one. So once the file gets imported, all the classifications will be listed over here. So Mr. Sandeep is asking over here, will the Tally be providing the revised rates once it is applicable? So right now, till today's date, whatever the rates are applicable for the items, we have given that one. So once it is going to be revised, you can just come to the alter option and you can alter it. I'll show you that one. And simply go with the one particular classification, that is agricultural machinery and implements, etc. So from whichever date the rate has been revised, you can just simply alter and accept over here. So from that particular date onwards, this particular rate will be levied on your purchases made. Mr. Amardeep is again asking a question here. So how to create a non-classification items for LBT? Non-classification item is nothing but creating the stock item. I'll just explain you. If the item is coming under LBT, you can configure that item for LBT. If the item is not coming under the LBT purview, you can just disable the option. So if the classification part is clear, so when it comes to the classification, we are having two provisions. Either you can go with the option creation, or else if the file is already existing in the Tally website, you can just simply import it into the Tally company data. Mr. Vasu is asking a question that is send the location part for Jalgaon. Mr. Vasu, your query is not clear. please kindly send the query in detail. So right now we have seen how exactly to create the parking master, then the tax classification that we are going to import it, and then LBT duty ledger. Now rest is with regard to the stock item creation. Now we will see how exactly the stock item will be created. As we are in this particular transaction, we are going to make the purchase of the fax machine. Already I have created an item. So if you are going with the first time, you can go with the option create. I have created an item over here by the name fax machine. So in order to configure the item under which particular classification it comes, we are given an option here that is set also LBT classification. So earlier a person had asked if the item is coming under non-LBT, how exactly to be created. So if the item is coming under non-LBT, you can just simply disable this option, no need to configure anything. So I'll be enabling this option to configure. So once I configure, it will ask me for the zone details. So this is nothing but whatever I have configured in my F11 and F3. Then we can configure the classification applicable for this item. So right now I have classified it under all equipment for electronic communication by wire or wireless. So accordingly you can classify your stock items created. Is it clear, the configuration part in the stock items? Mr. Amardeep is having a question here that for Nagpur, Amaravati and Chandrapur, the LBT classification is not available in our website. So Mr. Amardeep, you need to create the classifications manually, unless or until we are going to provide. But in the future, we are going to provide with all the 26 municipal corporations, but currently they are provided only for the 7 municipal corporations. Shall we proceed with the transaction? Shall we proceed with the transaction? Mr. Vasu, as Jalgaon is not available in the website, we need to create the classifications manually. Till the classification is made available on our website. Mr. Mathur, we are going to make a part of this one. XML files we are going to provide for all the municipal corporations. Till it is provided, you can just go with the option creation. So now as discussed, we have come across all the masters that are required to be created in order to make the LBT purchase transaction. So as per our first purchase transaction, nothing but LBT Lakshmi Electronics is going to purchase 10 numbers of fax machine at the rate of 12,000 each from Samir Electronic Traders. So now we are going to see how exactly this particular transaction can be made in Tally. So we'll go with the purchase entry. I'm going to record this entry as on 1st March 2014. I select the party as Samir Electronics. We'll be selecting the item over here. So as the VAT is applicable at the rate of 12.5%, I'll be selecting the VAT tax classification over here. Next, we'll be selecting the input VAT ledger. Now the transaction has been recorded. So now the goods have been entered into the municipal corporation. We have received the goods into municipal corporation now. So once the goods are received, suppose at the month end I need to generate the liability now. So in order to generate the liability, we will be going to the display, statutory reports, LBT, we need to go with the option computation. So under computation, you will be getting the taxable purchase details. So as we have imported the goods into our LBT zone, here we will be getting the details of that particular transaction. So as per the classification, the LBT is at the rate of 4% and the amount is shown in the LBT computation report over there. So once you drill down, you can just see which particular item that you have made the purchase, what is the amount and what is the tax. If you further drill down, you will be taken to the gross and entry details. Is it clear with the transaction that you have recorded and the computation that is showing the details of the rate and the amount? So Mr. Ravi is having a query over here. So can we consider LBT for the group of items? So right now we are not given any provision with regard to this one. You need to consider the LBT classification for each of the items. So Mr. Sandeep is having a question related to this particular transaction, from which state we have purchased. So as we have made the purchase from Mr. Samir Electronics, we have considered that under Maharashtra and also we have provided the LBT details. We have purchased this particular transaction, we have purchased the items from the dealer who is located into the another municipal corporation. The party is belonging to Ahmed Nagar. Is it clear, Sandeep? So now, after passing the entry, they need to generate the LBT liability so that same can be made payment to the department. So this generation and payment of LBT liability is done from the single screen that is having the LBT computation. So the navigation part is from the gateway of Tally, you can go to display, statutory report, then LBT, computation, and you can select under whichever zone you want to generate the liability and then you want to make the payment. Sandeep is asking a question over here, whether we can make the purchase from the party who is belonging to the same municipal corporation. We can consider the same zone in the party ledger, Sandeep. I will just show you a bit later. So first of all, we are just going with the one simple transaction. So all these scenarios we will be discussing a bit later. So now it's coming back to the generating liability and the making payment. So as I told you before that it has to be done from the LBT computation report. Using F7 command, you can create the liability before making payment. So once the liability has been created, you can make use of the function F5 for making payment. So here we have recorded the transaction and the LBT is calculated at the rate of 5,400. So from that LBT computation, if you look at the button bar, we have given two options here. One is to create liability and one is to create payment option. So before making payment, we need to generate the liability. Simply I just click on create liability option. So we need to debit the LBT expenses over here. This ledger you can create it under direct expenses or the purchase account. In whichever manner you want to be effective in the profit and loss account. So I'll be debiting here LBT expenses. Automatically the amount will be debited. Then I'll be creating the LBT duty ledger which we have created under duties and taxes. Here it will ask you to provide the details like for which period you are generating the liability and for which particular zone you are generating the liability. So as I made the transaction in the month of March, I'll just give the period of March month and I'll select my zone in whichever I am operating. So once the liability has been created, if you look at the LBT computation, it will show the particular amount as payable. And this particular on the button bar create liability will be hidden because already for the transaction existing for that particular month, we have generated the liability. So once after generating the liability, we have to make the payment to the department. So simply from here, you can click on payment. It will take you to the payment voucher. You can select the account, whether through cash or bank that you are making the payment. And you need to select your LBT duty ledger. So amount will fetch automatically. And under provide details, again you need to mention the details for which particular period you are making the payment, for which zone you are making the payment, and other payment details. So automatically your registration number will be picked here from your statutory masters. Just you need to enter the challan number and other bank details. Is it clear with regard to generating liability and creating the payment? Mr. Ravi is asking a question over here. Any consideration needed to be made in LBT duty ledger and expense ledger needed for liability generation and payment? LBT duty ledger, as I have already shown you, you can just simply create it under duties and taxes, and you have to classify it under type of duty as LBT. So this is how you are going to create the LBT duty ledger. We are coming to the expense point of view which you are going to consider for your LBT. We are going to discuss the same thing in our next scenario. Should we proceed further? Is it clear with regard to making the purchase entry, creating the liability and then making the payment? Maybe can you group of items से कौन सी बनाना होगा?
Group, yeah.
All this for electronic items,
So what are you looking at? But for some cases, you are asking growth is classification. What's your question?
So now we have made the payment. So once we made the payment, we need to generate the challan. So already we have entered the details over here. So in order to generate the LBT challan, whatever the payment cost that you are making, you just simply need to press Alt C. In the printing screen, we have given an option to print the LBT challan. You can enable that option and you can enter the date on whichever date you are generating the challan, your place and designation. You will be able to view the challan over here. And currently we have given the standard format of challan in Tally.ERP 9, but however this differs from zone to zone. We are going to bring the same feature in future releases. Currently we are having only standard format. So there is a question here. In case of late payment, how to account the interest and the penalty? So once after selecting LBT duty ledger, you can select whatever the interest ledger that you have created. So I'll be creating, for example, I'm making the interest payment. I'll just simply create this interest payment ledger under indirect expenses. So once you select the interest payment or penalty ledger, any expense ledger that you have created, in order to account your interest or late fees or penalty, once after selecting the ledger, it will be asking you to select the payment type, whether it is interest or penalty. Simply you need to select the interest over here and mention the amount manually here. The same thing will appear while taking the challan. You can see over here, based on the type of payment you have selected, it will be reflecting in your challan. Also, there is one more question from Mr. Weiber. While generating the liability, under which particular group the LBT expense was created, as this is LBT expense, you can simply create under direct expense or purchase accounts. So far we have seen how exactly to configure in the ledger master, company master, and how to record the transaction, how to make the payment, and how to generate the liability and other things. Now coming back to the slide, now we will quickly run through the reports that are available. So as we already know, under the report we have given two options here. One is for LBT computation and one is for LBT register. So in order to view the report, from the gateway of Tally, you need to come to the display option, statutory reports. So given separate option over here, LBT. So the two reports which are available, competition and register. For import and export, we will just get back to you this later with the transaction details. So as you all know, competition report is available. Using this competition report, you will be coming to know what are the taxable purchases that you are having. And also you will be able to generate the liability payment. And for whichever ledger you are not configured for LBT, you can, with the use of this option, that is ledger config, you will be able to configure. And for whichever item you are not configured LBT, you can just click on this one and you can configure. So currently there are no items existing in my data, for which the LBT classification is not done, so it means it is not appearing. Next, coming to the LBT register. This LBT register is nothing but your purchase register. As per zonal wise we have given. So it has been given in such a manner that it will be given in the invoice wise. So this is the report which shows the details of your LBT, taxable purchases, invoice wise and zonal wise. This is one of the MIS report. It no need to be submitted to the department. Actually, remember. You have to create So far we have seen with the simple transaction, wherein we will be making purchase from the another registered dealer located in another municipal corporation, and how to account the LBT liability and how to account for the payment made to the department, and the challenge generation and the report details. So I assume that it is clear to one and all who are present in the session. Any doubts related to this particular transaction that we have recorded here? Shall we proceed with the scenarios? Not to set the LBT sitting for attraction and housekeeping service. So going further, we will be discussing the scenarios. So far whatever we have discussed is just a simple transaction that we have recorded. So coming to the scenarios, first of all I'll take the first scenario. It was asked by many of the participants even. So first one is how to calculate LBT on additional ledger value. As I told you before that, whatever the invoice total will be there, the LBT liability will be generated on the total purchase invoice total. So here I'm just having a transaction for an example. Lakshmi Electronics is purchasing 15 numbers of fax machine at the rate of rupees 12,000 each from Samir Electronics, who is again a registered dealer from Ahmednagar. Here, transportation charges of 1,000 were incurred, and the transportation charges have been billed to me by Samir Electronics, so it is being paid to Samir Electronics. So in this case, so total item value and including the transportation charges and also including the duty, that is nothing but that, how the LBT will be levied over and how the transaction will be recorded, we'll just see it in the product. If this example is clear about the scenario 1, so related to this transaction, already we have created the party ledger. We are having an item. So only the thing is we need to go with the creation of the transportation charges, which is our additional duty ledger. Sorry, additional expense ledger. So I'll be going to accounts info ledger, create. As I've already created, I'm just going with the option transportation charges. Am I audible now? Okay, so as we have seen in the transaction, example transaction that we have seen now under the scenario 1, we have to create the additional expense ledger, that is transportation charges. Rest of the masses already we have created in the company data. So I'm going to create the transportation charges under direct expenses. If you are going to calculate your VAT on this particular transportation charges, you can enable this use for accessible value calculation. Otherwise, you can just disable this option. I'm going to record this entry as on 2nd March. Making the purchase from Samir Electronics. Selecting the item. Providing the quantity, weight. So as the VAT is credit, I'll be selecting the classification. Next, you need to select your additional ledger, additional expense ledger, that is transportation charges. Next, you will be selecting your input VAT duty ledger. So here in this transaction, the invoice total is 2,03,500. So as we know, on the total purchase value on the invoice, the LBT will be charged. So after making this transaction, in order to know at what rate and what is the LBT amount, you need to come to the display, statutory report, LBT, computation. If you just shift into over here, you will be getting the classification under whichever you have configured the item. So once you enter on this particular classification, enter on the stock item, you will be getting the purchase details here. So the amount, accessible value is nothing but your 2,03,500, which is nothing but your total invoice value. So the same has been considered for the value of goods and the rate has been charged at the rate of 4%. Is this transaction is clear? In the case of material purchase from ABC, but I made the transportation charges to my other party with a purchase intent. ಅದಕ್ಕೂ ಇದಕ್ಕೂ ಲಿಂಕ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. Mr. Vasu is having a query over here. The materials has been purchased from the registered dealer, but I am going to make the payment of the transport expenses to the transporter. So in this case, as per the purchase invoice, we will not be selecting the transport expenses which you are going to make the payment to your transporter. So a separate journal voucher or another purchase entry has to be recorded, or either through the payment voucher. So such kind of expenses will not be accounted over here. It will not be considered under the value of goods because completely it will pick from your purchase entries, not from the other adjustment entries that you have recorded. Any other queries? So we'll be proceeding with the next scenario. Next scenario is relating to the multiple LBT zones. For example, here under this transaction, Lakshmi Electronics, the company, they are having a branch in Pune, Maharashtra. So this Pune is having with it one of the municipal corporations. So here they will be operating from two zones. One is from Nashik and one is from Pune. So here they are purchasing 20 numbers of fax machines to the Pune branch at the rate of 11,500. And again, it's from the same dealer. How to record the transaction? So if your company is dealing with multiple LBT zones, you need to create different companies in Tally.ERP data. Under one particular company itself, you can configure the registration details of multiple LBT zones. So now we are going to see how this particular scenario can be handled. So in order to, if your company is operating in different multiple LBT zones, you need to first of all configure it in your F11 statutory matters. So I'll be coming to F11, statutory and taxation. I'll be enabling this option, set all to LBT details. Already I have enabled the zone over here Nashik, and I have given the registration number details over there. In case if my company is operating on only one particular zone. In case if the company is being located in different multiple zones, here we have given a note here. You need to enable multiple mailing details. Only then you will be able to provide multiple zone details over here. So before going to my F11 statutory features, you need to go to the accounting features. Here we have given an option, maintain multiple mailing details for company and ledgers. You need to enable this, and under set all the company mailing details. Right now we have configured Nashik zone for primary address. I'll be configuring one more branch address type over here as branch Pune. So after configuring the multiple mailing details, we need to come back to the statutory and taxation. Set all to LBT details. Now it will ask you the address type over here, whether you want to configure this Nashik zone for primary or branch Pune. I'll be selecting Nashik for primary. And I'm going to select the next zone in whichever my branch is located. And I'm going to provide the registration details over here. And date of registration. And I'll be selecting the address type for whichever this particular zone is applicable. Is it clear how to configure multiple LBT zones for the company data? So likewise, even the dealer from whomever you are purchasing is operating into the different multiple zones. Accordingly, you can configure the multiple LBT zonal registration details for the party also. You can come to Accounts Info, Ledger, Alter. You can select your party. You can come back to the Set All to LBT details. As the multiple mailing details are not configured, the tally cursor is now moving to the second line item, wherein you can select one more LBT zone. So before going over that, we can press SQL configuration over here. We are given an option to maintain multiple address. Like to configure for company multiple LBT zones, we need to enable multiple mailing details. Likewise, even for the parties, you need to maintain multiple addresses so that you can configure different multiple zonal details over here. So once after enabling that option, you will be getting an additional option under the ledger master that is set to alter multiple mailing details. You can enable over here. You can create the different address type wherever the party's operations are going on in the whichever zone. Then you can come back to the set to alter LBT details. Multiple details are let's select multiple LBT zones to configure for the party. Company will come in. Party will. So after configuring the multiple mailing address details for the party data, here you can come and configure the multiple LBT zones applicable for that particular party. So now coming back to the transaction which I have discussed. So right now, my particular company, Lakshmi Electronics, is operating into two particular zones. One is Nashik and one is Pune. Again, for Pune, in order to have the classification so that we can accordingly configure in the item master, you can just simply download it from our Tally website, because for Pune we have given the classification and you can import it in the Tally. So right now I am importing the classification which is accessible for Pune. I'll be going to import a data option, master. You can mention the location path wherever the classification file is located. So it will get imported. So after importing, if you want to see whether the classification has got fully imported or not, you can go to display, statutory reports, LBT, classification, and you can have a display. But here you will not be coming to know which particular classification belongs to which particular zone. Only while configuring the item master you will come to know. So right now we are buying the fax machines for the Pune LBT zone. So first of all, we need to configure in the item master that this particular item is being imported into the LBT zone of Pune also. So I'll go to the inventory info, stock item, alter, fax machine. Again you will be going to the option set also LBT classification. Already we have configured for Nashik. So once the classification has been imported, for whichever state you are imported, you will get the zone details over here. So now I have configured the item master. Let us come to the transaction. Recording this entry as on 3rd of March. Making the purchase from Samir Electronics. So in order to account for whichever particular zone you are importing the goods, while making the purchase entry you need to press F12 over here. We have given an additional option here, allow supplier, buyer and consignee name. This has to be enabled so that you can select the zone in whichever you are importing the goods. If this option is disabled, simply it will go and sit in the first particular zone whichever you are configuring the item master. Sorry, in the company master. Now select my party here. So once you select the party, as I have enabled that option, here you will be getting the two different options. One is consignee and one is supplier. So as we have created two different address types, primary is for Nashik and branch Pune is for Pune zone. For whichever zone you are going to import the goods, you need to select the address type over here. So right now we are making the purchase for the Pune zone. I will be selecting the address type as branch Pune. So LBT zone will automatically pick here as Pune. And here also, as in the party master, whichever address type you are configured, accordingly you can select the zone here. From whichever zone operation you are making the purchase. So we have recorded the entry now. Now if you go to display, statutory reports, LBT, computation. As we have configured multiple zones, here it will ask you which particular zone you want to view the report. So I will just simply go to Pune. That particular transaction will appear over here. So from here you can generate the liability for Pune zone. You can create the liability and later on you can make the payment. If this transaction is clear, this particular scenario whichever we discussed right now, making the purchases into multiple LBT zones. Now coming to the scenario 3. Scenario 3 is nothing but for importing of the goods under Rule 32. So Rule 32 says that whenever you are making the purchases and bringing the goods into your municipal corporation with the intention of making the exports, within 6 months of such purchase, 90% of that particular value of the goods will be under LBT exemption. Only the thing is up to 10% of such value of goods will be coming under LBT taxation. For example, you are making the purchase here for 50 numbers of cartridges at the rate of 600. Whatever the value will come, out of that one only 10% will be LBT will be levied. Rest 90% will be exempted. So now we are going to see how exactly this transaction can be recorded and how we can configure that this particular purchase will come under Rule 32. So the here transaction is nothing but we are making purchase of 50 numbers of cartridges at the rate of 600 from Mehta Enterprises located in Gujarat. So here one more scenario we can find here. Mehta Enterprises are the dealers who are located in the Gujarat. So as per LBT rules, whether you are making a purchase within the municipal corporation or the dealer who is located in another municipal corporation or any dealer who is located outside the state, that is nothing but outside Maharashtra also, if the goods are coming into the municipal corporation, you are liable to make the payment of LBT. So here we need to create the master. So as we are not having the cartridge as an item, we need to create the cartridge as a stock item. Then we need to create the party ledger, that is Mehta Enterprises. So I am creating the cartridge as an item. Then next I am creating Mehta Enterprises as its ledger under Sundry Creditors. As Mehta Enterprises is located outside Maharashtra, that is located in the state of Gujarat. So once you select the state of Gujarat, you can observe here you will not be able to get the option to specify LBT details. So now let us record the transaction related to the same. I am going to record this transaction as on 6th of March. Selecting the party as Mehta Enterprises. Selecting the item. So as this is the interstate purchase, you can select the classification accordingly. As this is interstate purchase, CSK will be applicable. I will be selecting the input CSK duty ledger. As it is 2%, you need to select the CSAM here. So this is the way that we are going to record the transaction. So now, once the transaction has been recorded, you need to come to the statutory report, LBT, computation. As I make this purchase into the Nashik zone, you can enter on the Nashik. And you can select this particular purchase entry by pressing spacebar. So once you press spacebar here, you will be getting this option that is configure. You need to enter on configure. Once you enter on configure, it will ask you to select the category under whichever you want to list this particular purchase transaction. Whether it is import by state or central government, whether it is import into LBT zone for export under Rule 32 on behalf of government, whether it is from local register dealer, all these unclassified purchases, you can just select the appropriate category wherever you want to make this entry to reflect. So I will be selecting the classification as import into LBT zone for export under Rule 32 and I will accept it. So once after accepting, this particular entry will appear under import into LBT zone for export under Rule 32. So if you press shift enter over here or if you just go with this option all sets and details, you will be able to see the classification and also the rate applicable. So value of goods for this transaction was 30,600. It's including your CST duty, and the rate is nothing but 10% of LBT was levied. 3% you are getting. This rate is nothing but for this Nashik zone, for this particular item, what is the rate available? So if you have imported this goods into the Nashik zone from the local registered dealer, you would have got the rate at the rate of 3%. As it is for export purpose, 10% will be charged. So accordingly, you can generate the liability and later on make the payment. Is this clear? Is this transaction? Is it clear with regards to the classification? I'll just show you with the mapping once again. I'm just showing you the mapping once again. So whatever the purchases you record, it will be coming in line under import into LBT zone. If you have configured the LBT classification either in your item master or in your parcel ledger master. So later on, once after entering on this particular option, you will be getting all the purchases that you have recorded in that particular period. So whichever purchase you want to map it, you can simply select that one by pressing space bar. So once after pressing spacebar, you will be able to see your configure option. So you can click on this enter option. So it will take you to the mapping screen. So wherein you can map the particular purchase entry as per the requirement. Is the screen is visible now? I'll just show you the mapping once again. So once after entering the transaction, you can just simply come to the computation report, enter on the import into LBT zone, select the purchase whichever you want to map by pressing spacebar. You'll be getting configure option enabled in the lower button bar. You can just press enter over here. and you can select the classification wherever you want to consider and enter and accept it. Shall we proceed with the next scenario? So next scenario we are going to discuss about the return of goods sold. So here Lakshmi Electronics is selling the 20 numbers of fax machine to SLV Enterprises, and on this particular transaction that is applicable. So once after making the sales, goods have been returned back by the party. So once the goods have been returned, we will be importing the same thing in our municipal corporation. So how to record such kind of transaction and how to map it in the LBT computation so that LBT will be exempted on such imports. So to record this particular transaction, we need to have a party, that is SLV Enterprises. So I've created the party master. As these are the customer to whom we are making the sale, you can just create it under sundry debtors. And if the party is located in Maharashtra, you can consider the LBT details over here. The party is not configured in the Maharashtra, you can just select not applicable or whichever state party belongs to. I'm recording the sales transaction as on 6th March. I made the sale of fax machine of 20 quantities. Now the goods have been returned back by the party. So once the goods have been returned back, it will be entering into my municipal corporation. So in order to account the goods return, we need to go with the credit note. So in order to get the credit note authorized in Tally, you can come to S11 accounting features. Under the invoicing, you can consider the options. Use debit or credit note. If you require the invoice mode, wherein you can select the name of the item, wherein you can select the items, you can just simply enable invoice mode for credit notes and debit notes. So under use score, I will be selecting goods sold return because my party is returning back the goods. Select the party from whomever the rejections have been done. So against the particular sale bill 1, I am recording the sales return entry. So in order to map this particular sales return entry that it has been returned back within 6 months so that the LBT will not be charged, I need to come to display, statutory report, LBT, computation, select the zone in from whichever you have made the sales. And you need to come to this particular option, receipt on account of return or rejection within 6 months. Once you enter on this particular option, it will be blank. You need to click on this get transaction so that it will start giving the list of the credit notes that you have recorded for this particular period. So once you click on this get transaction, I will get my credit note whichever I have passed against the sales number 1. I'll just simply enter on this one. And I'll click on accept. So once it is accepted, it has been marked under receipt on account of return or rejection within 6 months. So you need to mark all your credit notes using this particular option. Once again I am showing, you just need to go to computation and you need to enter on the option receipt on account of return or rejection within 6 months. In order to get the transaction details, you need to click on F4, that is Get Transaction option. Credit note will be listed. Just press Enter and accept the voucher. If this scenario is clear about how to account the return of goods and how to map it accordingly, so as I told you before, from the LBT configuration report also, you can configure the ledgers whichever you are not configured for the LBT, or else you can simply go with the stock configuration option so that it will list out all the stock items for whichever you are not given the classification details, and at from one particular screen you can configure it instead of going with the inventory info option. So you can toggle between stock config and the ledger config using F4 option. So there is a question over here, is it necessary to maintain stock so that we can account for LBT transactions? So currently we have given LBT for accounts with inventory company. So going forward we will be providing this feature for accounts on the company also. So currently if you want to generate the LBT report and LBT transaction in Tally, you need to create the accounts with inventory company and also you need to maintain the stock. Shall we proceed with the next thing? So far we have maintained all these transactions, created masters and other things in a company wherein we have configured the LBT details and then we have moved with the transaction. But there are some scenarios where customers will be using lower releases and they will be maintaining their data. So once after they upgraded to the 4.8 release, how they can account all their LBT transactions? So suppose this is the company Anand Rao Spices Limited. This data was maintained till release 4.7 and now we are upgraded. So after upgrading, we will be considering the LBT details from F11, F3. And now I'll be coming to display statutory report and LBT. See, once after entering on the LBT computation, for the data which you are configuring LBT for the first time in 4.8 release, it will ask you to configure it first. So once you enter on this one, all your purchases that you have recorded in your data, it will come and show under unclassified purchases. Because LBT feature was not available till release 4.7 and it has been enhanced from the release 4.8 onwards. So all the purchases which list under unclassified purchases, by entering on this unclassified purchases, again you need to select the purchases whichever you want to map under whichever particular category is it is applicable, you can select the purchaser and you can enter on that one and you can classify it. Whether it is import into LBT zone or whether it is import into LBT zone for export, accordingly you can configure it. If this feature is clear to everyone, once after upgrading to 4.8 release, so there is one question related to the transaction wherein there are multiple items and for few of the items LBT will be applicable and for few of the items it will be exempted. So how to create such particular bill under a single invoice? So as I told you before, for whichever item the LBT is applicable, we will be configuring the classification, and for whichever items the classification is not applicable, we will not be configuring it. So accordingly, it will show you the transaction value over there. I'll just show you with an example. So right now we are having an item fax machine for which LBT is applicable. I'll be creating one more item for which LBT is not applicable, which is nothing but the exempted one. So as it is exempted, I will not be enabling this option, set all the LBT classification. Now I'll be recording a purchase transaction using both items. I'm making this purchase to my Pune branch. So here I have selected the two items, one with LBT applicable and one with non-LBT. And I have made the transaction. Now coming to the computation. As I made the purchase into Pune, I'll be selecting the zone as Pune. So you'll be getting that particular purchase entry over here. If you see over this one, it is considering only the first item value and the VAT that is applicable on this item. So only for fax machine it will be considered. For non-LBT item, as it is not considered, it will not consider the value. That if you enter on that particular purchase invoice, you can make out the difference. Can consider the item value of the fax machine from here. So 11,500 plus 1,437, it's coming up around 12,000. So the same is shown as taxable value. So this is how you can record the invoice having the exempt item and the LBT items. So now we have completed totally around 5 scenarios. Please let me know if there are any questions and answers that you require. You can ask raise the hand at our time. Raise the hand. Raise the hand. Raise the hand. So there is a question over here whether the Tally is having the LBT applicable item list. So we are not having for whichever items it's applicable because it's purely depending on the customers. They can configure in the manner in whichever the LBT is applicable. Only thing is they are provided with the classification for certain municipal corporations. So accordingly we need to configure for the items. So there is one more question over here. Will be making the purchase of 50 cartridges in a single invoice from a particular dealer. Out of the 50 quantities purchased, 25 will be exported out of LBT zone under Rule 32 and 25 will be sold out of the LBT zone. So how this can be calculated? So currently for a single purchase transaction, we don't have the provision to configure for the multiple categories. Going forward, we will be bringing this in the product. So we have taken up this as a suggestion. Any other questions? And there are people who have asked for the presentation. They can put their email IDs over here so that we can send it across to them. Whoever requires the presentation, they can leave their email ID so that we can mail it to them. Can you also show the webinar? Recorded webinar. Recorded webinars will be sending across to everyone. Any other questions? Feedback link has been shared with all of you. You can just click on that particular link so that you can leave your feedback for us. PPT and data, once it is uploaded, will be mailed to you. You can leave your email IDs over here. And regarding classification, there is a question over here whether the Tally will have the LBT applicable items list for Pune. So as I told you earlier, items list will not be displayed in the classification. Only the thing is we have provided the relevant classification applicable for each zone. So you can import once in Tally and accordingly you need to configure in your item master. Any other questions? There is one more question related to the purchasing. Being a fertilizer company, they will be making a purchase worth rupees 10,000 and transport of 25,000 it will be paid to the local transporter. How to create the LBT liability? See, in your purchase entry while making this one, as your supplier is different and the transporter is different, there will be two entries recorded. So currently we don't have the provision to link between these two so that even the transport expenses will get included in the accrual value. We will consider this as a suggestion. Going forward, we will implement the same thing. There is one more question from Sandeep. 90% of goods sold within 6 months. This is what we have discussed in our scenario 3, that is under rule 32. Once after making the purchase, you need to map it under rule 32. So that 90% will be exempted. So that you can create the liability only for remaining 10%. If you have made already 100% of LBD to the department, 90% you have to claim as a refund in the subsequent month. From Tally itself, if you want to generate the liability only at the rate of 10%, you have to map this particular purchase transaction as I already reflected in my LBT competition report. One more question from Mr. Yogesh now. Mr. Yogesh is located in Pune and they are making the purchase of the material out of the state. Say for example from Karnataka, and they are using this particular goods that they have purchased for self-consumption, for example. And how is the LBT is applicable and how to account it. So whether you are making purchase from outside your state or whether within the same municipal corporation or from other municipal corporations, LBT has to be paid. So once you make this purchase entry, like as I have shown in the example, the purchase is made from Mehta Enterprises who were located in the state Gujarat. So once the purchases have been made, you have to create the LBT liability. It's nothing but same purchase entry you will be making by selecting the party and the goods. So once after making purchase, the liability will be created. And accordingly, you need to make the payment. Any other questions? One more question is that, what will happen when we are making the purchase from non-municipal zone Maharashtra? For example, as I told you, there are around 26 municipal corporations. Any purchase you are making out of the municipal corporation, once the goods are entering into your zone, you have to make the payment of LBT. LBT is applicable on these kind of transactions as well. Only when the purchases are made in the non-municipal zone, then the LBT will not be applicable. I hope this session was informative and it was helpful for you to implement the same thing in your Tally.ERP 9. So we are going to wind up this now. For any of the support related queries, you can mail it to support@tallySolutions.com. Thank you.
Look at the past. You feel it. Impression. That's another call. Your copy, no, later,